What's up, guys? It's the Imperialist, and today we are going to be reviewing the top 5 most underrated factions in Total War Rome 2. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. So at number 5 on our list of underrated factions in Total War Rome 2, we have Epirus, okay? So Epirus, I know it's a challenging campaign at the beginning of the Epirus is one of those factions that what am I saying? They have a really challenging campaign, alright? Although, however, that should not put you off as making it like the worst faction in the game just because of how hard their campaign is. Okay, so there's a definition of it being hard for basically inexperienced players would consider Epirus hard. However, a player with more experience should cherish playing as Epirus because they have the best unit roster of the Greek city-states, in my opinion. They can field pikes, hoplites, and even you can even get you can recruit some of the best mercenaries in the game, even recruiting mercenary Indian war elephants to help you. And all in all, Epirus is a very good faction once you escape the beginning of the game. And so what I would do if I was Epirus, try to get
Athena give you wisdom.
Get trade with mass, or get
You
some
speak
sort of
well
agreement with
and
Macedon.
with conviction.
Because they do actually like you at the beginning. Rome probably isn't going to declare war on you the first couple of turns because they're dealing with the Etruscan League, so you don't have to worry about them. So you should just focus on attacking Athens and Sparta, wipe them off the map, and then, in my opinion, if the Romans still haven't declared war on you, go after either probably go after Macedon, basically consolidate the Greek mainland before choosing to tackle with like anyone else. But Epirus has they have the unit roster of a successor kingdom, and the successor kingdoms can field some of the best armies, and Epirus can stand toe to toe with them, and can stand toe to toe with pretty much even the Romans, which I think it's pretty good. So Epirus, even though it is a really challenging start for an inexperienced player, I understand that. But for an experienced player, I think that Epirus should be an underrated faction. It's one of those factions that doesn't get enough, notice, even though it has an amazing unit roster. But it doesn't get enough notice as other factions like Macedon or Carthage as like a top faction in the game. On the number 4 spot of this list, we have on the number 4 spot of the underrated faction on this list is Armenia, and basically, here's the thing about Armenia. They're pretty much they start off with a good amount of territory under their control. They start with 3 cities. They start off with a not the best capital city, but still decent enough for a beginning. You can, I mean, they can only. The problem with Armenia is though that um, they're kind of locked in, like they're kind of locked between a bunch of different factions, like the Seleucids, Pontus, the Black Sea factions, and the factions up over here. But Armenia is actually a very good faction, in my opinion, to play as in the Grand Campaign. So you start off with a very easy war against the Ardhan, and after you deal with the Ardhan, so the Seleucids they actually do like you, so that you shouldn't worry about that. Trapezus likes you, and Pontus likes you, and pretty much a lot of factions like you, so that gives you an opportunity to pick off some of the factions that don't really like you as much one by one. You can pick off the Kartli, attack Colchis. And Armenia doesn't really start off much in terms of units. However, when you start getting into the late game more, you will start to get much better units. If you can get Royal Cataphracts, which are one of the best cavalry units in the game. You can get Azatnites, Eastern Cataphracts, armored horse archers. Basically they're kind of like a Parthia, but they start off with a lot more land, and they don't really, in my opinion, they don't get as much recognition as they should. Like when people think of the best Eastern culture faction, they automatically think Parthia, because Parthia is famous for its cavalry, but Armenia, you can field the same exact kind of units, but you start off with a much better in a much better position than Parthia, and that is why at number 4 on this list is Epirus. At the number 3 spot on the most underrated factions in Total War Rome 2, I am putting, at number 3, right? Yeah, I said that. I gotta keep better track of what I'm saying here, because I think at number 4 I accidentally said Epirus instead of Armenia. So if you guys caught that, then that's my mistake. But anyhow, though, back to this. So at the number 3 spot on the most underrated factions in Total War Rome 2, we have the successor kingdom, the eastern successor kingdom of Bactria. Now, in my opinion, Bactria does not get the recognition it deserves, even though it fields the same armies as the successor kingdoms, and they start off in a good position. So Bactria, you start off far to the east on the edge of the map, and you're surrounded by these like eastern and nomadic factions like the Dahe, Khorasamai, and a lot of the factions you're near, they field either eastern units or horse archer units, and Bactria and their position is really good because it's a very defensive and strategic position, and you start off with a good financial start because you can get a gold mine, which can basically, gold mine gives you a boost in the economy basically, and Bactria can field. They can have, you can recruit what are they again? Bactrian Royal Cavalry, which are one of my favorite cavalry units in the game because of they have a really good charge in my opinion. They're they have one of the best charges in my opinion, and they can also field things like cataphracts, armored like Hellenic cataphracts. You can get, so here, let me show you the garrison real quick. You can get pikes, you can get thorax pikes, you can get Indian war elephants, which is excellent. You can get our Indian armored elephants and Bactrian royal guard and Hellenic cataphracts. So honestly, Bactria is they're kind of the same exact faction. They're pretty much the same, almost the same as the Seleucids kind of. It's just that they don't get enough recognition as the other Hellenic factions, such as Macedon or Egypt, or like the Seleucids, or their former overlords, the Seleucids. But they can field armies that can easily combat these other successor kingdoms. They're a successor kingdom as well in the game, but it's just that they don't get the recognition they do like the other kingdoms do. Now, if I was playing Bactria, I have some advice for you. So, wait until these guys declare their independence from the Seleucids. So, form like some sort of like agreement with Arachosia to the south to leave your border secure. Go after like the factions of like Aria and maybe the Dahe. When you're fighting nomadic factions, make sure you recruit cavalry units so you can run down these pesky horse archers quicker. And also recruit some archers as well, because they are pretty annoying to deal with. I've had experience with horse archers; they're annoying. But anyhow, that's why Bactria is number 3 on our spot, is because of their starting position and their units that they can choose, which I believe is underrated. Coming in at number 2 on the most underrated factions in Total War Rome 2, we have Pontus. And Pontus is one of those factions that people just they kind of tend to forget about. They're one of the forgotten powers of the game. Pontus is basically, they're a mix of Eastern and Hellenic, which I think is awesome. And they start off in a really good position actually. So you have So you start off with an easy war against Cappadocia to the south, I mean, their position, they're kind of, and you got Trapezos who does actually like you to your east, and Pontus can feud really good armies. They can feud really good units.
Greetings,
I
friend.
mean, their diplomatic situation, I'd
I
say,
am
is
sorry.
kind of good, kind of
I gain
bad.
only the score.
Because you start off at war with Chimera as well, but Chimera is not too hard to fight with because they're also fighting some of the other Scythian tribes over here. So take out Cappadocia first, and then try to like take over the Black Sea. These couple of like Black Sea Greek factions, they're not too hard to conquer. After that, once you see that the Seleucids have become weakened, you should try to go after them and then attack maybe some of these Anatolian factions. In Pontus, let me check out their unit roster real quick. They can field hoplites, pikemen, Pontic swords, citizen cavalry, Cappadocian cavalry, Thorio spears, noble blood cav, bronze shield pikes, and Pontic royal cavalry. So which all in all, it makes them actually a really decent faction. It's just that they tend, just like some of the other factions on this list, they tend to get overlooked. They kind of tend to get overlooked even though they can field armies that can pretty much, they're evenly matched with some of these top factions in the game. And plus, they start off with two cities. They're not the best cities, but they're still like, you still got two cities, so that's good. And the majority of the factions around you are kind of weak. Galatia can become strong if you let them become a threat, though, so I'd advise you to keep an eye on them. But Galatia is going to likely be at war with someone else, so don't worry. Armenia, for some reason, doesn't like you at the beginning, but you can always change that through diplomacy. So that's why Pontus is number 2 on our spot of most underrated factions. And finally, at the number 1 spot of most underrated factions in Total War Rome 2, we have Massalia. Massalia is, they start off with a decent capital city. They can field decent units such as hoplites and Celtic units as well. So you can actually easily go against some of the barbarian tribes. And you also start off so here's your diplomatic situation. You got all of these Celtic tribes around you. So Rome actually likes you, so you don't need to worry about them for now. The Volcae, so I think you'd go after, you shouldn't tackle with Rome too early. More like go after some of these weaker factions, which shouldn't actually be that hard because your units you can feud are amazing. So here to look up some of the units Massalia can feud. They can get hoplites and Celtic units. You can get citizen cavalry. You can get Tarentine cavalry, Massalian cavalry. They have your own unique units. Massalian Thurio spears. They can get thorax swords, which are very good. They're not the best, but they're a very good sword unit. You can get decent cav. It's just the only thing that people tend to overlook about Massalia is because they're a small faction. They're kind of a minor faction. They are surrounded by a bunch of minor factions, so usually people tend to overlook those. But Massalia is they have an easy campaign. And Massalia can easily grow into a strong world power if you're playing as them right. So, to avoid making too many people to go to war with you early, just like go after maybe some small factions, and then over time grow your power. Probably take over like all the Gallic, Celtic tribes, and then if Rome hasn't taken control of Italy, then try to take control of some parts of Italy. But keep your relations good with Rome unless you want to attack them. But Massalia is the most underrated faction in the game, although I also felt that Chimera in the Black Sea Colonies DLC also kind of deserved an honorable mention in this, but Massalia, in my opinion, is the most underrated faction in the game. Chimera is an honorable mention, just noting. So, that's it. So, I'll see you guys all next time. Goodbye.